to yours. Welcome to EMS at Sea Level. I'm here today with Jan Burian, who is from IDC. Jan's based in Prague in the Czech Republic and is responsible for the EMEA region in terms of manufacturing insights. Jan, before we get started, just give me a quick summary of your background and the IDC activities that pertain to supply chain and manufacturing specifically.
Okay, good. So I'm based in Prague, in Czech Republic, and I'm a head of IDC EMEA Manufacturing Insights team, which our team has got a European footprint. So Czech Republic, which represents Central Europe, then Germany and UK. And of course, we're just a part of the broader Insights team. So we also cooperate very closely with our UK and US, mostly US colleagues and APAC colleagues as well, right? And the focus of manufacturing insights team is mostly could be divided into two groups. First one is we work with the technology vendors, and we're advising them on a go-to-market strategy, and to help them to understand the situation in a manufacturing vertical. Then we also work with the end users, which we call them end users, right? So, but these are the manufacturers, production companies, not just let's say like a traditional factories, but in certain areas we talk also about mobility, which means that we work a lot with automotive OEMs and also with the distributors. And when it comes to the asset management, for example, and of course it overlaps pretty well with the power and utilities area or oil and gas.
Okay.
So what's quite interesting, and what's I would say differentiator is that for the end users we try to, or we conduct a, let's say, real consulting or management consulting projects, right? So again, there might be, this could be also divided into different areas. One of them is the digital transformation assessment or digital roadmap design. We are, let's say, assessing the technology footprint or the technology or the IT architecture, and advising the clients on their technology, I mean, if there's something what's new on the market, right? Because some of these digital transformation initiatives, they've been running for years, and you know that the technology itself develops very fast in a very fast pace, right? So even in the people who are leading these projects in factories and companies, they might lost let's say a view on the quality, or on the how actually the technology could perform, because they selected something like 2 years ago, right? And now and they need to have this. I mean, this should be running then for another couple of years at least, like, I mean, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. So they really they have to be sure that they've selected the right tech, and then they're really on track with what's going on in the market. And so we do this project mostly in Western Europe and in Africa, which also try to, or we are also helping the end users with software selection, because we do. I mean, one of our flagship documents is the MarketScape, which is a document where we just comparing or saying where we identify who's the leader on the market in certain tech area, and many, let's say, or like a lot of people being in charge of the software selection and deployment in enterprises, they are using this document as a sort of guide, right?
Yeah.
So then when we get there, we have to explain them. I mean, how this all works, and then we try, of course, or we are guiding them through the process of the software selection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, when
Okay.
it comes to my team, it's mostly manufacturing area,
Yeah.
so EMS, ERP, and so on.
Yeah. Okay. And when you look at what's been going on recently, obviously with the COVID crisis, that's kind of made people think a lot, firstly about capital investment and what they can afford to do, but also what they need to do in terms of digital transformation. Have you noticed in the surveys you've been doing and the customers you've been talking to that there's a greater appetite for digital transformation now than there perhaps was in January or the end of last year?
I mean, definitely, there's a it's quite interesting looking at the results of our survey. First, I have to say that one of the first questions we're asking is like, what impact do you think COVID-19 will have on your organization's revenue in 2020? Right? Because I mean, all this appetite for the change, for transformation, it mostly depends on their revenues or money or effort that you like to invest, right, into this activity. So, and it was actually pretty interesting that we see that almost like I mean, like 80% would say that that there will be a significant, let's say, or impact on revenues. I mean, negative, of course, impact on revenues, and that's of course not a very good news. However, there's still like 15% of respondents told us that they expect increase by, I mean, up to 10%. So there's still some let's say some pockets of industries or companies
that are performing well,
who maybe come out of the situation as a winners. But of course, for most of the others, it means that there will be, let's say, decrease in their revenues, which means, of course, I mean, this is like an impact on many decisions in the companies, especially when it comes to the investment or cost-cutting initiatives. Right?
Yeah. And when you look at the investments they're making, does that mean they're looking at some of these more disruptive business models, this idea of software as a service or robotics as a service, automation as a service that comes out of OPEX rather than CAPEX? Do you think that's a trend that will gain momentum?
Sure. I mean, definitely. So in another question in one of our surveys, we asked the respondents what is the most important, let's say, areas driving the change, and they said that it was the use of new technology and the reducing costs. Right? So these two things. So I mean, reducing the cost, it's exactly what you said. I mean, it's not just cutting jobs, right? So, but it's about investing the money in a smart way, a smarter way, and exactly as I said, right? So software as a service, for example, could be one of the ways. This is because it also means that this is it showed during the couple of last months that software, I mean, especially, I mean, cloud-based services and software as a service, which is mostly based on cloud, were helping companies to shift the work from the physical offices to the homes of their employees. Right? So this is also
Okay.
one of the ways which help them. And yep. So on the one side there's a cost, on the other is use of new technology.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean we talk about the two things here. One is automation, and the other is digitalization.
Yeah.
Because it's not the same thing. Of course, the people are very often mixing these two areas together.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the automation, we saw, let's say, that the need of automation in especially in production area on the shop floor, this significantly increased, especially during the COVID, right? Because we saw that there are some activities like companies were rapidly redesigning their shop floor processes and the production lines or assembly lines, right, to really be fully automated or with a minimum impact of the human. So that's and we see that this trend continues. So if we also have discussions with some OEMs or the end users of factories about their future plans, some of them they have at least at the table some like plans to build or for building say new modern factory, and most of them are thinking how to do it, let's say, or how to build this factory or factories or production areas in a more automated way than before. And so it's not just about the robots themselves, but it's also a lot about the AGVs, automatic guided vehicles, about effective logistics, right? Touchless logistics, internal logistics. Right? So and these, I mean, most of these projects are now on hold, of course, but on the other hand, it gives time to enterprises to prepare these or to work on these projects in a bigger detail. But the truth is that now the pressure on ROI, return on investment, is higher than than before, right? Because in typically in pre-COVID times, there was like the ROI could be around a 1 or could be like a 2-3 years. Of course, it depends, but now it's mostly around like a 1 year. So the companies are really reassessing the projects and postponing some of them, and really look at the ones with the let's say
with the compelling ROI.
Yeah.
So I guess people are looking for stuff that's got a clear ROI argument, a clear return on investment in a fixed period. And if they can use something that is not a huge capital investment and it's more of a as a service investment, that makes it even easier to justify as well, because it comes out of operational expense, not capital expense.
And then also, but what's also very, very useful to think at scale, right? So not just because especially in certain areas like I don't know, like ROI for AR, for augmented reality projects, or some of the IoT projects is, when the companies try to, let's say, set up and calculate this ROI, the impact, the whole business case, sometimes they just, they are really on the edge of what they able to or what they want to invest into deployment of the solution. And sometimes it's that because they really look at the implementation or deployment of a solution from a perspective of one production line, maybe one factory. They don't think that much how to scale the solution and how to reach the, let's say, benefits at scale. right? So this is one of the tricks,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, if I'm gonna tell you like this, I mean, you say, okay, it's obvious, right? It's not a big deal, but in reality, it's not like that, right? So some people are, I mean, the people in some departments, they are very, let's say, deep dive into their area, right? So and when we talk about the factories, especially from a data point of view, we talk about the silos, but we also talk about the silos in a line of businesses as well, right? Or like a department to department, especially in a, let's say, in enterprises. I mean, companies with thousands of employees and with some, let's say, continental footprint, right? And that's really a different situation, right? Of course, unlike if you the owner of the one factory, right? So you probably have a different approach than the enterprise, and also
the enterprise.
also different possibilities how to scale the solution.
Yeah. So it needs to be scalable. It needs to have return on investment. It needs to be manageable, and it needs to be reasonably simple to implement and reasonably quick at the moment, because people are quite short term. Just switching gear a bit, when you think about the supply chain, so outside of the manufacturing process, what about business processes? Are people investing in software to do quotations, software to manage supply chains, all those kind of things?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the most, I mean, the crucial word in supply chain world is resiliency, right? At the moment. So, and companies, they understand that they need to establish resilient supply chain, and the question is how, right? Because I mean, it's on a paper it seems, or it looks all very nice and clear, but in reality, that's not that easy to establish this resilient supply chain, right? Because of course you work with some, let's say, top 10 significant suppliers, or maybe 20% of them. The rest is a so-called tail, right? Like very small suppliers, and some of them could be like suppliers from Asia or Central Eastern Europe, or even like or Africa. But of course, be companies in US and Western Europe, which are not that, let's say, digital developed, right? So which means that they're not able to provide enough data or the right data about their performance, right? About the performance of their suppliers, and the whole chain. So that's, of course, this is a very challenging area, but we see that the companies really, I mean, the OEMs or end users, they are looking for solutions which help them to establish this resiliency. So we're talking, of course, about supply chain tools and so-called control towers, right? So some of them could be AI or machine learning embedded.
Yeah.
So because of course this, I mean, it's a very complex exercise to understand the whole chain, all the correlations in a supply chain. So this is definitely where artificial intelligence patterns or engines gonna help, right?
Yeah.
A lot, right?
Yeah.
So and then, I mean, when we talk about the supply chain, also we can say that one of the most, also another important word is collaboration, right? So we saw, or we got an experience in last couple of months that, you know, from our perspective, we can say there will be some, let's say, winners in this situation, which were the companies who were able to quickly react on a situation. And there are, let's say, again, two areas. One of them was production of the face shields or the masks or ventilators, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so traditional companies like automotive OEMs, for example, they have to switch their production programs, right, from making a cars, making a gearboxes, into making a ventilators or the fuel or the face masks, right? Or and we saw that they couldn't make it in such a short time by themselves, right? So they had to form the partnership with some other company. So we saw that we saw many of these partnerships on the market, right? So like we got that the one, for example, with like a Volkswagen and the Airbus, right?
Yeah.
So one company was providing their production, like a production equipment, production capacities. Another one was providing logistics. Or a good example is, for example, is Ventec Life Systems and GM, General Motors. One company was providing a supply chain, the suppliers. Another one, again, the capacities in the factories and ability to, let's say, switch flexibly from one production to another. And we saw, let's say, maybe like a tenth of such a collaborations all around the world, right? And so, and this is not just about or this was not just about the ability of, you know, just like a call someone or write a couple of emails and establish a partnership, right? So it was, the challenge was much bigger. And this is like one thing was, of course, like the legal stuff and so on, but another one was the technology, right? Because these companies had to share the data, you know, with each other. So they definitely had to look at the collaborative, digital collaboration solutions, right? So and it's not, we're not like just talking about some like a Microsoft Teams or Zoom or whatever, but we talk about the way how to connect, for example, the data from ERP systems or PLM systems, right? So it really goes beyond just the traditional collaboration or video tools.
Yeah, and there's a requirement for the digitally enabled supply chain and digital agility to be able to connect those, and a desire to collaborate and trust on all parts. So that's essential for that. So when we look at the trends in supply chain, what about shifts in terms of where stuff is actually manufactured? Are you finding that there are European manufacturers that are winning business because people are shifting their supply chain out of China?
I can feel that there could be many perspectives how to look at this, because of course when it all started in China, I mean, a lot of people are thinking that now is the time to get production back to Europe or to US, right? But as the time went by and the pandemic then went to hit the Europe in a very strong way, and also the US, then there could be, let's say, totally different angle on the opinion on the situation, right? And then some of the companies might say, okay, it's quite far in Asia, but the impact. I mean, for example, China is handling the situation much better way because it's also like a huge country, right?
Yeah.
So they're handling so if something's going on in one part of the China, doesn't mean that it's like the whole China was hit, right? So it's just maybe certain pockets. Even if the pocket of the COVID could be in size of the half of Europe, it's still very small compared to the China capacities, right? So that's another thing. But what we see, of course, there might be maybe some regulations from governments to remove some strategic industries from Asia to Europe. Talk about maybe especially when it comes to the production of drugs, right? But pharmaceuticals. And pharmaceuticals. And when it comes to of course we have I mean, we had some conversations with the OEMs, and they already, I mean, the C-level people, they already asked their colleagues in procurement or purchasing to try to identify some of the new suppliers, let's say closer in the European region. But I think that it's at the end of this, and in the end of the game, it's going to be all about the costs, right? So of course, it's really a big question mark here. I mean, to what extent is this possible to shift the production in some scale to the US?
Yeah.
What might
and
help,
how competitive could Europe be?
Yeah, what might help is the automation, definitely. Right. So because in Europe the labor cost is of course significantly higher than in China. Even if in China it's rising up.
Higher.
It's still, I mean, the labor here in Europe is still much more expensive. But on the other hand, the automation could maybe leverage this advantage.
Yeah, it could make it a little bit more of a level playing field. Yeah, and I think that will encourage people to invest. But also, I think Germany has traditionally been much more automated, and than many other regions because of its high labor costs. So I think that will continue, and I think people will continue to invest, but in these challenging times it becomes more difficult and more pressure on investment. So as you say, that ROI calculator becomes really important. The flexibility and the adaptability of the automation becomes really important, but also having the software to allow you to scale that integration across a whole enterprise and be able to create these agile collaborative supply chains that you talked about. So looking forward, what do you see as, within the surveys you're doing, what do you see as the sentiment from companies as they look to as they look beyond the pandemic? What is the sentiment? What's the focus on companies as they move to the next stage?
Yep. So we call this let's say, I mean, there are different things, right? One is when the pandemic is over, hopefully it's going to be over, at least at this scale as it is. And the other is what comes after that, right? Because manufacturers, they see that some other crisis might come, right? Which would come out of this pandemic, and then they see there at least like a short-term outlook, maybe mid-term outlook in a very conservative way, right? So, but we see in our studies, I got one in front of me right now, that we call this, we're gonna call this period like a transform, right? Period of transformation. And we see that there are, of course, I mean, one of the key areas for the companies is not just like a cutting the cost, but the other way around, right? So to earn more money, let's say, and to earn more money, not just through manufacturing and selling the physical products, but selling the services. I know that this idea is on the market for a long time, right? But especially during these times, it's really accelerated, and it echoes at the end user side, right? So the companies are really thinking how to establish. One thing is how to establish effective collaboration models, which help them to, be more effective in go-to-market strategy, right? Because in go-to-market in general. Right. Then, of course, they try to form this, or they are forming this alliances or ecosystems because of also creation of the new services. Like one company is providing something, the other something else. They put it together. They got a
a more
collaboration
compelling
platform,
market.
and they are able to create a product or service and throw it to the market and very quickly, right?
Yeah.
In a very agile way. So that's one of the priorities of the companies, to be more agile, try to different ways how to increase the revenues. Right? If this works, then good. If not, let's do something else, a little bit else, and
Do
let's
something different.
be more flexible. Maybe that startup flavor a little bit in certain areas. Of course, so this is the one. So this is the one area: digital sales channels, and of course on digital sales force. Another area, of course, is how to equip their products with the digital solution, maybe the service, but in a way to, let's say, the one thing is to, let's say, again, to generate some money for that, to get some revenues from selling that. We got very nice example from our experience. We were working with a company which is a manufacturer of the industrial robots, and of course they got like a different software with the robot, that's clear, but they were also thinking about to, let's say, development of some kind of like a solution which would add some value to the robot itself. Something, maybe it could be like an MES system, or it could be like a remote service application using using augmented reality, right? Because they know that, of course, they could get paid as a, for, I don't know, like for subscription of the product, but also they could provide this value to their customers, who are now forced to really to implement that social distancing approach there, right? So on the one side, the companies are trying to invest in solutions will help them to improve that social distancing approach in production, but also in servicing as well. Right? So this is another thing. So this, on one side, there are the vendors trying to design, develop such a solution and sell it to the end users, and on the end user side, there are of course initiatives, activities leading to the, let's say, social distancing in their production environments. So they invest in this area as well, right? Or that comes together, right? So and of course, one of the key activities for many manufacturers is thinking about a factory network redesign, right? So they need to redesign the production lines, the entrances to the factories. They try really to lower the number of people. They try to they're gonna implement especially the low cost automation, right? The collaborative robots, which could be assembled and
deployed locally.
Deployed, and very quickly, especially, right? So they are not they don't have to be much robots, but they could be really deployed very quickly. They could be then moved through the factory where it's needed, right? So this is definitely the way how to improve the situation on a shop floor. Another point for the close future is, of course, that supply chain footprint redesign. Where to start thinking, and it's just not about a pure, let's say, dual sourcing, or just thinking about how to ship the production from Asia to Europe or to US, but this is also about to be, let's say, clever on solution you have, or you try to implement. I give a very good example. Company called, I may quote one company, right? Because this is, I think this is really good approach. And the company is called Fictive, which is a quote to all platform. And through this platform, when you manufacture, you can just be connected to the provider of machining service or 3D printing service, which makes this system is quite robust, right? So they are able to shift the production orders from one country to another. They got and this is not just like a marketplace, because marketplace is also something which is here for a long time. But I really like the aspect of the quality control, right? And of some, let's say, also like a support when it comes to the 3D models or design or creating the designs of for the product. So it's much more complex, and I can see I'm always giving it as a good example of going from a, let's say, linear relationship to the network relationship.
Yeah.
Right. So I understand it's not probably it couldn't be applied on every area or on every type
product
of component or whatever, right? But this is still the way in certain areas how to
where it can,
make the supply chain resilient.
No, I think those platforms, those manufacturing ecosystems, those digital manufacturing ecosystems that have manufacturing partners that are managed with people on the ground, make that networked supply chain much easier. So I guess when you summarize, Jan, I think the pressures are to be creative, be innovative. You've got to be careful with investment. You've got to have solid short-term return on investment. All those digital transformations are important to allow those collaborations. You've got to have the transparency so you can see what's going on, and you've got to move to a much more collaborative world where, maybe your product isn't everything the customer wants, but by working with partners, you can create something that's very, very valuable. So it seems that we're going into a period of accelerated change. Is that what you're expecting?
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, many managers, they just got their lessons through the previous crisis, through the economic crisis, which was a little bit different in the way how it started, because of course economic crisis, it was more like the start was quite slow, So for example, in Europe, we believe that there will be a minimal impact on Europe at the beginning, right? After and in a year or something, that was really the impact was very hard. And on COVID-19 pandemic, it's different. It's different situation, because it happened. Everything was happening so sudden, right? Right now, I mean, the closures of the factories and some of the supply chain were just disrupted. So different experience, but I think that now most of the managers, they understand of the business owners, they understand that just cutting the costs, saving jobs, this is not the right way.
Not enough. Yeah.
To a certain extent, yes, but not to the scale or to the situation which we saw in the previous crisis. So they understand they really need to invest in, as you said, in a smart solutions, in being more flexible,
and bigger solutions,
and definitely not to think that I could handle it by myself. So, and now I think it's very good situation, or also very good. Maybe the feeling is the right word. I don't know. So that the companies really would like to cooperate with each other, and we have the vendors here as well, providing more advanced solutions than 10 years ago.
Or even 5 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So the situation is changing, and so
more in place.
But invest smarter, be more agile, and collaborate.
And I think for you, Jan, it sounds like a busy time. Lots of chaos always means consultancy. So I imagine you're going to be busy, and actually all the data you provide is really useful to help people make those decisions. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks for talking to me today. It's been a real pleasure. I will get some information on you where people can access those reports and get in touch with you, and we'll put that out with the video. Meantime, thanks again, and thank you to everybody for watching EMS at Sea Level.